James, and I'm here with the Oracle Outlook for the week starting April the 23rd, 2018. This week I wanted to work with Lenormand again because you all are showing so much love for the Lenormand readings. I thought, let's keep this love train going. So the deck that I've chosen to work with for this week's reading is the 1889 Lenormand Oracle. It is by Jennifer Cast of For the Seekers. So I have the deck on hand. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a few moments to shuffle the cards. And as I shuffle, I'm focusing on my usual intention and question for these weekly general readings. And that is, what do we need to know for the week ahead? All right, I'm feeling that's good. I'm going to go ahead now and cut the cards and fan them out. And now I'm looking for 5 cards in the fan because when I work with Lenormand, I like doing a line of 5. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so I have the cards picked out. And now I'm putting the remainder of the deck to one side. All right. And so because this has been working so well, I'm going to continue what I've been doing over the last few weeks, and I'm going to start with the card on the far left. If we go with the idea that the cards are going to be sharing a story, this first card tells us how the story starts or how it opens up. So taking a look at the card, here we have the dog card. Okay, so my keyword associations for dog, I think of friend. So this card can represent a friend or friendship as the start of the story or the subject of the story. It can be about a partner or a partnership. So there is that. It could also be that somebody is needing some kind of help, support, or advice. Those are other aspects that I have for the dog card. And if that is the case, if you're needing help, if you're needing support, if you're needing some kind of advice, your go-to person may be a friend, somebody that you trust, somebody that you have a great deal of faith in, or somebody that you consider to be loyal, because those are all aspects of dog. So again, as the first card opening up the sequence here, we have something that may concern a friend or a partner. We may be seeking help, support, or advice, and if that is the case, then we want to get that help, support, or advice from somebody that we consider trustworthy. So that is how I would look at dog. Oh, and of course, as I was about to put the card down, for some of us this may be literal because Lenormand can be quite literal. So there may be an issue having to do with a dog, keeping it literal, an actual dog, or some other form of domesticated pet or animal, because I tend to look at dog in that regard. So this just reminds me, this is just an aside, but it reminds me of the idea about the literal aspect of the card, because I actually had, over the course of last week, I had a regular client ask me to do a line of 5, and it was about a puppy and getting a puppy housebroken. So that's why, as I was about to put the card down, it was almost like the card was like, no, talk about the literal aspect of dog. So for some of us, we may have an issue with an actual pet, a dog in particular, or some other form of domesticated animal. So that's dog. So now let's take a look at the next card, because it's going to offer us some more information about the first card. So taking a look at that, okay. So here we have the mountain card. So mountain, my first keyword association with mountain is that it can represent some kind of challenge, some kind of obstacle, some kind of block. So here we might have, a friend who is experiencing some kind of challenge. And then that would make sense for the idea about help, support, or advice. It's about helping the friend overcome this mountain. It's making me feel like overcome the hurdle or the obstacle. The thing about mountain, when we're talking about challenges and obstacles, this card suggests that the challenge, the obstacle, is not insurmountable. You can overcome it. It just may take some time. But as a pairing here, we could have, you know, a friend or a partner who's going through a challenge, you know, or a friendship or a partnership that experience some kind of challenge. And with that, then mountain can suggest some kind of setback, some kind of delay, or something being postponed, right? So those are other aspects of mountain. The only other thing that I want to say in the moment, if we go with the idea here that dog can represent a friend or a partner, then mountain could be suggesting that the person is becoming distant or remote, because that's other aspects of mountain that I would consider. Sometimes this card can represent distance or being distant and remote. The only other thing that could be is if we go with the idea of being literal, this could literally mean a friend in the mountains, you know, that kind of thing. So that would be, again, keeping it really literal, right? So there is that. But my first go-to would be like there may be a friend who may need help, support, or advice because they're going through some kind of challenge, right? So there's that. Or that there's going to be a specific friendship or partnership that experiences some kind of setback, right? And it's a matter of, you know, overcoming that challenge. So now let's take a look at the middle card, because for me, the middle card always represents maybe the central issue or something that we're being asked to focus on. So taking a look at this card, okay. So here we have in the middle, we have coffin. So coffin is a card for me that can represent something coming to an end. I tend to look at this as endings and completion. The other thing here could be about closure, you know, seeking some closure around a situation or something being finalized. So this is how I would see this. So there may be something that we are focusing on bringing to an end, right? So it could be, if we consider the possibilities here, mountain being the closest card here, this could just represent this idea that there is some sort of challenge, obstacle, or block that is coming to an end. That's how I would read these two cards if we go in order from left to right. There is that to consider, right? So it could also be too, like, if there is a challenge, if there is some sort of block, if there is some sort of delay or setback, then it could just be, you know, some idea here with coffin that there's some sort of limitation and restriction around that. So these two cards could actually be reinforcing one another if we go with the idea that they're reinforcing this idea about, you know, something of a setback, something of a delay, something being postponed. Then that would make sense too, because coffin in that regard could just suggest, in terms of postponement, that something, you know, is being finalized or something's coming to an end, right? So there is that. If we go with the idea that the dog card can represent a friendship or a partnership, then with coffin being the central card, there may be a need to seek some kind of closure around that friendship or that partnership, or that there's something about it that's coming to an end. It could be like the friendship or partnership comes to an end as a result of some kind of challenge, right? Some kind of challenge, some kind of obstacle, some kind of hurdle, right? And as a result of that, it comes to an end. So that's how I would look at that. So now let's take a look at the card on the other side of coffin. Okay, so here we have book. And so book was a card that showed up in last week's reading. So here we have it again. So book is a card that can represent something having to do with a project. So here we have, if I remember correctly, we had this idea with a project last week with book, right? So now here we have maybe the ending or completion of a project. So for that person last week who maybe resonated with book in all its forms, you know, as a project, it could just be like you are now coming to the end of that project, or, you know, that book project is coming to an end. I said book, right? So because one of the things I had said was that this could literally represent a book project, if I can say the word correctly. So here we have this idea with book that it can represent a book project in and of itself. And so now we have the completion of that, right? Because I talked about last week, if somebody was actually doing something with a book, what stage in the publishing process were they in? And so it could just be like the person took heed on that and they actually completed that project, right? And it could even have been like the project was challenging, right? And the challenge comes to an end, and as a result, this project is now done. So there is that to consider. But book in and of itself for me can represent, aside from a project, it can represent knowledge, it can represent education, it can represent a course of study, those kinds of things. It can also represent, because I said this last week, because I used a new deck last week. So book for me can also represent a deck of cards and the act of reading cards. So it could just be saying too, like again, this reading may resonate with somebody in particular because the book card has shown up. Now again, the illustration has the book closed. So for me, I talked about this last week, that a closed book can represent some sort of secret or some sort of mystery. So now here we go. If we go with the idea that, you know, the secret or the mystery that we talked about last week possibly, then the coffin card coming before book, make sure I have them right in the, in the shot. If we go with the idea that this represents a mystery or a secret, then it could just represent the end of that secret, the end of that mystery, meaning that it's been revealed to some degree, right? Or it could be like if there is some sort of completion ending, there may be something about it that still needs to be learned, because it could be like a secret ending or a mysterious ending, that kind of thing. So it could be like a, you know, an ending that's being kept under wraps for whatever reason, like maybe even the end of a book, you know. Or I'm thinking like right now, keeping this relative, I'm shooting this on the day that one of my favorite TV shows is coming to an end. So for me, it's about Scandal. So I'm a huge Scandal fan, and tonight is the last episode. And so for me, I'm trying to be really good about not looking at anything online, you know, in case there's a spoiler alert or something, or some sort of leak of information about how the show is going to end. So for me, right now, at this moment in time, the ending is still a secret or a mystery. So you may not be a Scandal fan, but it's getting me to say that in my particular context. So could you just be saying too, like, what is it that there may be an ending that you are trying to keep under wraps, or that you, or maybe there's an ending to a project and you're trying to keep a lid on it with coffin. So I'm seeing all that as a possibility. So now let's take a look at the final card in the line this week. And here we have, okay. So here at the end of the line, we have the Moon card. So the first thing that I want to say about Moon, my go-to keywords for Moon are career. So there may be something having to do with someone's career, and then that would make sense if we go with the idea that the book card can represent maybe somebody who's in education, somebody who is actually working with a book. So this could be a writer, author, novelist, something of that nature, right? And they have a career, because that's what they're known for. The other thing here with this card, the Moon card, besides career, I tend to look at it as reputation. So somebody in terms of their career is well known, because this card could represent reputation, but also this idea about fame. You are known for something. So somebody may be known for a particular type of series or a particular type of project. If we go with the idea that this can represent an actual book, then somebody may be known for a particular type of genre or a series, and maybe there's something to that series, maybe it's coming to an end, and they're trying to keep the ending under wraps, right? So I'm seeing that as a possibility. The other thing here with these two cards here, somebody may be working on, maybe becoming more established in their career as a reader. I'm going with this idea that I talked about, this idea about reading cards. So somebody may be wanting to become more well-known or more recognized for their reading ability, their ability to read cards. And if that's the case, then one of the things that might be helpful to you might be this idea here, because sometimes for me this card could sometimes represent this idea about being more in touch with your intuition. So if you want to maybe become more established or more known for your reading ability, it could just be a matter of you getting more in touch with your own intuition, and that will help you grow and develop. It could also be too, like sometimes this card can just be a matter of being connected. This idea about famous people and being recognized. Here's another thing, could be like you get some recognition for this project, And it could be like if you're an actual reader, then you may get some recognition of some kind, maybe from somebody who's maybe a little more well known for your ability. It could also be too like your project, if it's a book project, your project, whatever this is, gets some kind of recognition. And with that, then the moon card could represent getting some kind of award, if we go with the idea of recognition, right? So I'm seeing this at the end, somebody may be getting some kind of recognition for his or her work, especially maybe if their work is coming to some kind of end, or something that they have been known for is coming to some kind of closure, if we go with the middle card. So now I want to talk about some other aspects here that I mentioned, and I don't want to leave those out. If we go with the idea that the possible scenario here with dog is about, you know, something having to do with a friendship or a partnership, and we hit a bump in the road with the mountain card, and we are considering this idea of like, is the friendship over? Is the partnership over? Is it coming to an end? This card here at the end could just be suggesting that it's important that people's needs in the friendship or the partnership are being recognized, because again, this is about honoring something and recognizing something. People can't fix a situation if the other person's needs are not being honored or recognized. So this could just be a matter of creating the space for people to get together and to acknowledge what each party needs in that friendship, in that partnership, and then making the decision if we can honor those needs. So that is how I would look at the moon card at the end of the line. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and end this week's Oracle Outlook. I'm James Himm Mitchell, and as I close, I'd like to thank you for sharing space here with me for this week's reading, and I look forward to sharing the same space with you again in our next video reading together. So until then, I'm hoping that you have a wonderful day, and I'm hoping that you have a wonderful week. Take care.